Michael Montero here with former middleweight champion Kelly Pavlik of Youngstown, Ohio. We're at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Kelly, let's get right down to business. Tomorrow night, Spence-Garcia. How do you see that fight?
I got it a 50-50 fight. Listen, it's great for boxing. I think this fight is important. Mikey Garcia, I think, got one of the highest ring IQ in boxing.
Right.
Fundamentally sound, and also not only that, but he's got great hand speed. And Mikey's, I don't think he's going to stay there in the pocket too much. He may move around, but he's constantly going to be given different angles. On the flip side, you got Spence. We know Spence is a brutal welterweight, big, strong guy.
He's busting at the seams, right? At welterweight,
yeah. So, I mean, this is a fight. I know people said it was crazy. And, you know, everybody complains that big fights ain't made. And then you finally get one, and everybody's going, oh, well, this guy is crazy. But this is a fight, yeah, anything can happen. Can Spence knock Mikey out with his power early? Absolutely. Can Mikey go in there and maybe box his ears off? Who knows? I mean, Mikey is a multi-division world champion.
Right.
So this is no walk in the park for Errol Spence either. It's not really a mismatch. So I'm interested. You know, it's hard for me to pick a winner, but I got a 50-50 because the way Errol fights, you know, and I watched Errol with Kell Brook, and Errol's there to be hit. And Mikey, I don't think is going to be a stationary target. So it's going to make it really interesting.
And he covers up well, right? Mikey seems to cover up well.
He'll move, and then he'll stay back in. But even when he stays in the pocket, Mikey's giving you different angles and different foot positions.
Right. His feet aren't fast. His hands aren't blazing fast. Nothing is spectacular, but everything's very good.
Very good,
right?
Yeah, and everything is solid. You know, in boxing, to have great footwork, you don't have to be a Pernell Whitaker, who was a guy sometimes that make you miss, but he was out of position.
Right.
Guys like Bernard Hopkins and Mikey, they make that little subtle move with their foot, and that's considered great footwork. You know, they take your advantages away from you.
One thing that, you know, a lot of people haven't talked about, activity. Last year, Errol Spence, I think he fought 7 rounds. His last fight went a round against Carlos Ocampo. I think that was last summer. So in almost a year now, he's only fought a round. Mikey Garcia went 24 rounds last year with Lipinets, with Easter, 2 good quality fighters. Can that have a factor tomorrow night, activity? Or is Errol Spence so young that it doesn't matter?
It could. You know, I believe in ring rust also, but you know, Errol's still young. You know, he had that fight. I hate to, on a fight like this, on a fight of this magnitude, blame it on that.
Right.
But yes, the advantage goes to Mikey in that category of staying active and not being rusty. But I'm pretty sure that Errol's camp, he tried to shake as much of that off as he can.
Work on it. Yeah. How did he look to you at the weigh-in? They just weighed in a few minutes ago. I think Errol Spence came in at 146 and a quarter, a little under.
Yeah.
And Garcia, I thought, looked good at 145 and a half. What about Spence coming in 3/4 of a pound under? Do you make anything of that? Did he look dry to you?
No, he didn't look dry to me. That's the thing. But who knows with that? Because that is a big issue.
Yeah.
I've experienced it in my career. You know
Right.
I lost the world title to it. And, you know, but with that, Errol looks strong, and I'm sure, you know, it depends on how he rehydrates. I'm sure he got some great guys on the team that are going to help him out rehydrate. And of course, we know Mikey wasn't going to have a problem with.
Of course, yeah. I think it was smart for him to come in a little under and try to not come in at 47.
Exactly. So can the advantage go to Mikey on that? You know, Mikey was probably eating yesterday.
Right.
You know, so,
he's looked relaxed all week, and Errol's looked a little tight.
Yeah.
So. But I can't get you to waver, man. You're 50-50. You can't go 51-49 for me. You can't.
On my podcast, it's documented that I've been really good on my picks. And this fight right here, I just kind of want to sit back, enjoy it, and watch. Because, you know, with me, somebody like former world champion, if I'm wrong, everybody's going to go, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
It doesn't matter what you do.
It don't matter.
On Twitter, they're going to,
It don't matter if I had 20 world title belts. I don't know anything about boxing.
Exactly. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about your podcast. You started doing a podcast recently from Youngstown.
Yes.
And what do you want to accomplish with that podcast? Is it just a way for you to stay involved with the sport? Or do you want to educate fans? I mean, what is it?
Well, you know, it is. It's a way to get out to the fans. We're one of the few podcasts where, I mean, if you watch it, we're constantly on our phones. And but it's because we get out with the viewers and the listeners, and they get to ask questions, and we try to answer every question, because a lot of shows, guys got to watch it, and then they want to respond to something that a guy says or a reporter says, and they can't. With my show, you know, we try to answer as much as we can. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and you know, that's the main thing. Our format is to be fan friendly.
Yeah, tell everyone where they can find it. I mean, the name of the podcast, where you can find it.
Punchline.live, and you can subscribe to it on YouTube, share, and we're on Facebook Live. But, you know, so as far as that is, to get it out there, people love boxing. Like you said, you got a world champion, and my co-host is more of a historian.
Right.
And then, you know, maybe even open up doors for commentating. Who knows?
There you go. Hey. Well, yeah, let's talk about, okay, future for you. There's been rumors, and you know how shit is on the internet, that you want to maybe come back and do a fight at heavyweight. Can you put that to bed, or is that true?
We were just talking about maybe commentating.
Okay.
No,
I'm just saying. I hear people say these things, and I gotta ask you.
You're right, and you know, I mentioned it on Joe Rogan, so I'm sure a lot of people.
That was you did a great job on that podcast.
Yeah, and you know, I said I got the itch. So with that being said, that means I can go run 2 miles a week from now and say, you know what, screw this. You know, it's kind of a great position because unlike my career where every fight you had a lot of pressure, you had the fans and this, and you had to perform, now it's on me. There's a lot of things that we got to take into consideration. You know, I'm really realistic. I'm getting ready. I'm approaching 37 years old next month. You know what I mean? So I'm still in that little window where I'm good.
Heavyweights age slower. I'm just saying.
They do. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of things, you know, talk with the kids. I'm not in a hurry on it. And if I do it, it's under my terms. And if I don't, oh well. So that's why I clearly stated on a lot of interviews that I'm thinking about it. You know, there's a lot behind it. But of course, my local media took it and kind of twisted it. But
so you're 50-50 on that, just like the fight tomorrow night. Okay. Let's talk about your career before. When you became middleweight champion of the world, you were undisputed middleweight champion of the world. And it had to be a lot of pressure. Youngstown, Ohio has a boxing tradition. What was that like at such a young age to have that kind of pressure and that kind of spotlight?
It was hard, and I sacrificed a lot, and I dedicated. And, you know, towards the end, I went out and I had fun in between fights, and that's what it was. You know, a lot of people took
Do you regret that looking back?
I mean, absolutely not. I would do it again. I mean, I missed a lot growing up. But other than that, you know, there was a lot of pressure. And every fighter has it too, so I'm not playing like, oh, poor me.
Right, of course.
Fighters have that, you know, there's a lot that goes on. It's just, besides getting beat and beat up every day, it's also, you know, you're starving yourself. Then when you get to that level, you got everybody, you're in the spotlight. And everything you do, if you did 29 things right, they're going to pick that little half a thing you did wrong and harp on it. And it's, like I said, it's everybody that's in the limelight. And it comes with a lot of pressure, and a lot of players will say, oh, don't bother, I don't pay attention to it. That's bullshit, because they do. And then especially like your hometown, everybody comes from a hometown. So, you know, especially Youngstown. There's not much going in Youngstown.
Small town.
So you got the city on your back. You're literally carrying a city. And so everything, there's a lot of pressure on it.
I want to ask you about the Bernard Hopkins fight. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of how that fight got put together and, you know, when and all that. What did you learn in that fight? And what would you do that fight again? Would you have, because you were sick, right?
Yes.
Would you have waited? Would you have delayed it?
You know, I love Bernard Hopkins. I think Bernard Hopkins, he's a class act. He was great for the sport. And, you know, so I'm not putting him down, or taking anything away from Bernard. For me, unfortunately, against any of all people to be fighting, Bernard Hopkins, I had that type of night. But Thomas Hauser, who's a writer, and if people like him or not, Thomas Hauser is a straightforward guy who don't lie and writes down exactly.
Tells it like he sees it.
And he was in the locker room, and he's seen everything before the fight, what was going on. And it was not a 80% Kelly that night. And I don't even blame the 2 weight classes that I jumped up. Just wasn't my night. And the same goes with the Martinez fight. But Bernard's an unbelievable fighter, though. He's one of the smart. Another guy who was unbelievably smart and just had everything down to a T. And you know, Bernard. So no, I didn't learn anything because a lot of people thought that fight ruined me, and it didn't. I knew what happened. I knew what was wrong. And after that, the only thing you could do is kind of like pick yourself up and get back into it and move. And you know, I went on a 2-fight win streak after that. I beat actually a very game Rubio. I beat him up to 7 rounds, and he ended up going on to win a world title.
Right. And then you had a very competitive fight with Sergio Martinez.
Yes.
Who was, you know, became at least at that point the best middleweight in the world. But so would you say, though, lesson learned in a situation like that with a fighter, should they delay the fight if they're not feeling 100%? Because fans will complain. People bought their tickets, they got their travel arrangements, you know, but is it worth it?
You just led me into a great point. What we just talked about a little bit ago with the pressure and everything else, because there was an elbow injury in the beginning of that camp too. But a lot of the Youngstown fans had already went out and purchased their tickets. Right. And then there was a little scuffle with the Paul Williams fight that I was supposed to have, and that was between promotional companies and everything. That's why that one fell through. So at that point, if I would have postponed that fight, I would have took a lot of heat from that, and rightfully so.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I should have probably. But yeah, I would have took a lot from that, and so we'll see what happens on that. With that, you know, I still try to come out and talk about it a little bit. I may eventually one day give the full story on it. But yeah, postponing it, and the same with the Martinez fight. That was kind of documented too, and even the announcers mentioned about the weight issue and about the treadmill and the stationary bike. And there was a fight right there, coming a pound over. A lot of fighters do it. You know what I mean? My ego was too big for that, though, because I didn't want nobody talking bad or saying that I won that fight because I was a pound over. So literally almost killed myself.
Making that. What's that last pound, right?
And if I would have came in a pound, so what? Take the titles. We knew for a fact that was my last fight at middleweight.
Okay.
So ship me, take the titles. Who cares? You know what I mean? That would have made a world of difference, because in that fight, as you can see, he started off. He won the early rounds. I came back and I had it.
Yeah, you heard him.
I was up on the scorecards going into the round that I got cut, and I hit a wall, and it wasn't the cut. I mean, the reason why I got cut was because I was just lethargic and quicksand, and I couldn't move. You know, I seen the punch coming, nothing I could do about it. And again, you know, I don't want everybody's gonna go all these excuses. No, it's not. You know, after the fights, until I retired, I never made an excuse about it when I couldn't. You know, when it really mattered. So now I'm just telling the truth of what exactly went on. Yeah, I wish I could have redone those over a little bit.
There's always things you look back, and I'm just curious, you know, because I've talked about that fight, particularly the Hopkins fight, because there were things behind the scenes, and Thomas Hauser talked about it, some other people did. A lot of fans don't know, but it's one of those things where maybe if you just make that decision and take the criticism at the time, maybe things turn out different, you know?
You know, but at the end of the day, and I can honestly say this, I don't get down on it too much.
Right.
Because I look at it, you know, at almost a 13-year career, I was 40-2 with 34 knockouts. I went out, I won my last 5 fights before I retired. And I'm not ashamed of it at all. I thought it was a great, fantastic career.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah, I wouldn't want those losses, and to have one fight like that with either Martinez or Hopkins under my resume would have been, my resume would have been nice too, but it is what it is, and I'm content with it. You know, a lot of guys stick around too long, and they lose, and they lose, and they lose, and they end up 48-7, and
right.
I was 40-2 with 34 knockouts.
That's a great record, great career.
Yeah.
One last question. I want to ask you about the powerlifting. You're looking pretty swole. I got to say, man, I'm a little intimidated. No, you've been getting into the powerlifting, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that? What got you into it? And what do you love about it?
I got a buddy, you know, I was working out. I've been in the gym my entire life, so I know lifting weights, you know. I mean, even when on the specials, you guys see me doing the functional strength training. Mm-hmm. Which I brought to the forefront, I believe, with, I think so, a little bit. Nobody was doing it at the time. Sledgehammers. But so I got into the powerlifting after I retired. I mean, I was so skinny, if I turned sideways and stuck my tongue out, I looked like a zipper.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was tired of being 6'1", 170 pounds, so I started powerlifting. And I came across a buddy, a good friend of mine, Lonnie Atkins. They call him TK. He's he got numerous world titles in powerlifting, drug-free, so no steroid or anything. And he teamed up, and he goes, man, he's like, I love to work with you on the powerlifting. And so I went along with him, and we got strong quick. And I started benching. I went from farting and sneezing to get 185 up to 360 right now. You know, through injuries, being able to hit that. So yeah, me and Lonnie, we really put it together, and I live with a team, and it's great. It's fun.
It's fun to see some of the clips you post and everything on social media. Well, hey, Kelly, man, I enjoy it.
Hey,
all right, I enjoy talking to you. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. Thanks a lot, guys.
No problem,
former middleweight champion, Kelly Pavlik.